Hey, realists. In the community section, it turns out a little bit less than a third of us, or a little bit more than a third of us, give or take, is not getting our recommended FDA 7 hours of sleep each night. And that's not a good thing, because long-term health consequences of inadequate sleep is profound, as if we'll be around long enough to feel them. And so that brings me to why I'm recording this, because I listened to several podcasts on my trip today. And I'll just come out front and center and say that there's limits to our knowledge, and anyone is subjective to falling into not only confirmation bias, but a subjective matrix view of their own ordeal. And you guys know as well as I do, my subscribers who are extremely intelligent, that we try to live within objective means about the reality that we face, and I encourage and applaud all of you for doing that. However, it's even more annoying by the day when I listen to podcasts with technocratic influencers, I guess you could say, that have relatively prestigious backgrounds of masters of chemical engineering or mathematics and biological engineering, and just name some fancy term and degree, they have it. And they go on, and that's how they've been conditioned to think about this endless growth and progress by the institutions, and they can't see past the fog that we don't have 20 years from now. And so this is also a call to action personally, that you live. Why aren't you living your best, fullest, most adventure-filled life? Why aren't you? Okay, there's no reason given where we're headed in 20 years. In fact, it should in 10 years. It should be all the more motivation to stake your claim and what it is to be you and express your unique identity. I'm with Nietzsche on that one, that everything can be musical, or you are the artist of your life within means. But you do the dance and you play, and you don't act in bad faith. I agree also with Sartre that to act in good faith means that you own, what you're wearing, how you act, and how you respond to others. And what I mean by that is, by acting in good faith, or what he meant is, let's say you're on a date, and I just heard this from the Lex Friedman podcast. It kind of struck me. What we are guilty of in our society and culture is acting as though we don't have to make a decision. That, let's say you're on a date and someone reaches out their hand, and it's that moment to connect and, grab their hand. Do you reach back and grab it back, or do you leave it cold and clammy? And that decision makes you, if you don't reach out and grab it, or you don't acknowledge, you neither reach out and grab it, nor do you, that's an action, and you resist. That's an action. You are your actions. That's all that's left in this world. If God is dead, we don't have a cultural narrative that pre-guides our, decisions and what we should do in our life, as it was for thousands of years. That Christianity and God was, we are the image of God and whatnot, but that changed around, the turn of the 19th century with infamously, Nietzsche's quote, "God is dead." And that's what he meant, is the conditions which guided us and led us as a culture and as individuals is gone. And so you are essentially, in that framework, you are your own God. You make your own decisions. Those decisions dictate who you are and your existence, and define that existence and meaning within yourself, not outside, not through some God or technocratic ideal. At one point in my life, I thought the best thing I should do is work for a startup tech company in San Francisco and drive a Tesla, and I thought that was the ideal image of success. And maybe it could still be. And a lot of the near-term human extinction groups that I'm at least followed in say, if that's what you want to do, if that's what will bring your life purpose, then you should pursue that. It will give your life meaning. But in the face of abrupt and irreversible climate change, or in light of that, it totally washes that down the gutter. And for all these lunatics, again, I go back to these podcasts with these technocratic people, and of course they're on Spotify and Apple Play and whatever podcast affiliated company, so they got a lot of subscribers who are just as lost into the matrix as they are. The lunatic Boris Johnson, even at COP26, said, if this fails, everything fails. And he's right. And we're headed for 2.7 degrees. And that is unlivable. That is unlivable. So I can't stress enough the importance of living with urgency and enjoyment of the now. And you could turn the cards back on me and say, okay, well, what are you doing enough? Well, I could die tomorrow. Okay, I've lived an incredible life. I inadvertently followed Nietzsche's advice and said, without knowing it, but rather backing away from what I felt to be not a prudent or good way to live, based on the standards that my parents and the immediate family and extended family were painting for me around me, setting the scene. I said no to that, and I made my own artistic work out of my life. And that your actions make you who you are. And so that makes sense, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. These technocratic angel capital investors and all these fancy business capitalistic growth mindset people, is that they're locked in the matrix of that ideal. And you could say that I'm locked in the matrix of the ideal near-term human extinction, and so it dictates what I do now. And that's right. I mean, I think it's completely sane and logical to say, hey, if you knew scientifically that you were going to get cancer in, let's say, 12 years, it's proven. It's not like, oh, there may be a COVID that will come. There may be a virus, a pandemic in 2019. No, we know now with scientific accuracy, 99.9% of scientific peer-reviewed papers indicate where we're headed. Then that should be all the more expediency, again, just to live your life to the fullest. Why aren't you doing what you want to do? Personally, I am. I think in this stage of my life, I am. The grass is always greener on the other side. Yes, I'm a kind of a slave to comfort and my fridge and my bed. That's comfort level. That's what I prefer. And unfortunately, climate emergency has a tendency to make you believe that, gosh, should I even exist if I'm just consuming resources and destroying the planet for billions of lives? No, that's really just not right. So you have to tussle with that to say, well, my life is worth it, and I have purpose to my existence, and I serve others as often as I can. I record that. I tell you guys, I will give my neighbor a ride to work. She, works at Nowhere Specials. She's on disability, and I take her to work. It's not far. It's not a big inconvenience. I serve others when and where I can. But it doesn't help that the state of American affairs is in decline. Our institutions, our monetary system, it just the inflation, the bang for your buck isn't what it was ever. The value of the dollar. I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I wrestle with that between back and forth. Well, I know where we're headed. We know where we're headed. But at the same time, this totalitarian system has me felt a sense of learned helplessness. Like, depression has become me. I embody miserableness. And I admit that. It is a cruel, miserable, infinitely nothing, isolating and lonely world to be in. And those moments day to day when you're quiet by yourself, you can distract yourself all day with whatever hobbies and things you're into, but when you really stop and take a breath, none of that matters. None of these things, that the history of how, it's good to know, cool to know, I guess, for its intrinsic awe factor, but that's as far as it goes. Who cares when we know where we're headed is all of that doesn't matter. Like, it wipes the slate clean. So, okay, what do I struggle with? Feeling nihilism and a sense of, oh my God, the time is now. We don't have tomorrow, and what's the best thing? I oscillate between these two mindsets almost that come with entirely different viewpoints that shape my decisions and my actions pretty much daily, sometimes hourly. What's the point? As one of my subscribers and worthy patrons said, those kind of moments, melancholy. And then the other times, like, right, like I just said, the time is not, like, the times are nigh, and the end is soon, or at least things are degrading rapidly. I mean, we had it good, as one of my friends pointed out, we had it good for so long, and the level of comfort I'm experiencing now is light years ahead of what most of humanity experienced. I don't not acknowledge that. I do. I clearly, state that I have no room to complain. I could be. I didn't have a choice, but what annoys me is the technocratic talk of endless growth when we have COP going on, we have multiple resources of credible information, credible resources telling us near-term human extinction, a loss of habitat for Homo sapiens, yet people are again stuck with their own fantasy. So miserableness goes. I learned helplessness. That's a byproduct of our degrading American society. I don't deserve a partner. I don't deserve a house. I know all of that even contributes more to global warming. But that learned helplessness, it's sort of victimhood, but it's also just conditioning, and it's experience, of firsthand experience of trying to make it as an adult. Like, you guys don't understand this. Okay, I know a lot of my older viewers have had hard times, and I've spoken with several of them, like really hard times, having profound situations put on them that they've had to adapt. And that's no different than now. But, most people I know are making $24,000, maybe $30,000 at most a year. Maybe I should have put a poll out about that. But if you make more than $37,000, $40,000, then you're considered in the top 10% income earners of the world. Of the world. You know what I mean? And for a brief moment, I was making $36,000. I was in that space, and life was crazy comfortable. Not to say that it isn't comfortable now, but I have my worries. I mean, the anxiety of living. Most Americans can't afford $500 worth of it. It's the condition for an emergency expense. It's the conditioning. Okay, well, I can't even stand on my own 2 damn feet without feeling like the tide's going to take me out under. One trip to the hospital, one missed, car accident, someone hitting me, like the vulnerability, you understand the stress that takes on you. You literally have to arrive at the point where fuck everything. You got to put it to the side, because that's like walking around with your phone without a case. Oh, well, shit, I'm going to drop it. Am I going to drop it today? I'm going to drop it today. Some of us who suffer more with the generalized anxiety disorder might experience more trouble with that, but most, it's still nerve-wracking. And that's how life is in America. And it's sad. It's sad. As one of my, again, I bring him up again, one of my patrons and subscribers, all the inflation, the inequality, the billionaires running around this planet, taking all of the M1 currency, it's absurd, and it never had to have happened. I should not be feeling like I'm one accident away from losing everything. I should feel like I have the opportunity to meet a viable companion. And I know for certain that if I'm feeling this way now, then women feel it twice as worse. As far as financial insecurity, gosh, getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning, doing makeup, doing all the things I do, plus more, and trying to pay rent and survive? No, they have sugar daddies. They learn their way out of it. They don't go for normal men anymore, and that's a part of it. That's a part of it. Is the conditioning of society is they aim across and up dominance hierarchies, and normal guys, you have integrity. You don't mean anything. So the 21st century for a young individual is profoundly different from a lot of even my boomer followers. I mean, you guys saw the transition into the neo-capitalistic society that we're now experiencing, but we're full-blown in it, where everything has been commodified. Everything. Love, relationships, it's about security and survival. It is about the dollar. You don't want to think it's about the rat race, but it is about the rat race. And it's evident in, clearly in like I said, in dating. I'm a creative person, self-employed. They don't want that. No. With a relatively, competent IQ? No. It's about how much you can provide and safety when when they're going to open their legs and pop out a baby for you. And for them. And again, it's evident everywhere. I mean, I don't need to paint much more like examples of this, of failed institutions, of marriage, people staying together for just reasons of love, like, are going to have a ravaging hard, like critically hard time if they're just on that intangible, fleeting feeling. Employment, everything has been degraded, and so pathologies emerge, such as my own, which is kind of quasi, nihilistic / but I'm also, it's kind of extreme. I'm on one hand, I'm like, well, nothing. Well, your action. Okay, on one side, your actions dictate who you are, and so to act is to live. And the other side of me says, well, the evidence suggests scientifically that, none of this matters. All of this is headed 6 feet under in 20 some odd years, way sooner than that. So, yeah, definitely weird. We've never been here before. And I'm driving and I'm seeing, I've seen about a couple hundred 18-wheelers go by. I mean, it's clearly evident that everything, all the bullshit they're spewing at COP about transitioning our society over, we're not built for a farming, gathering, cult society and civilization. Let's put it that way. We're not built for that at all. And net zero is a joke. It's a lie. It's reckless and dangerous. Didn't want to keep this too long. I'm sure if I had someone else, I could talk for hours, but my thoughts on this ride this morning is as follows. A sense of learned helplessness, a permanent state of depression, which is literally like submerged into me. I view the world of a lens of hopelessness, of unentitlement. And in some sense, it's kind of liberating. It can be. I try to look at it in that way. But no doubt, it's depressing in any other viewpoint. And if you're not paying attention, if you're living your life, as a majority of the overwhelming masses, that 1.5 degrees Celsius isn't real. They don't even, you bump into someone on the street, they don't know the carbon, CO2 in the atmosphere. They don't know the biodiversity loss that we're experiencing. They're not awake. They're not awake. Even my sibling, his head's so far up his ass, like I had to paint the picture of what's coming, and it's scary, and it's the truth. And that's what scares people, and it scares, and on that note, let me also say that, doomer chicks don't exist. They don't exist. Okay, guys? Girls that are fully, completely aware of collapse, or climate emergency, they'll just kill themselves. Like, it's too much. It's too much. They can't even, most of them are not realists. They would rather subscribe to the ideal of the fantasy. They would rather not go through the mental gymnastics that I do on a daily, hourly basis, of which I just described, damn, and nothing is, we know we're having cancer eventually. I'm going to get cancer eventually. But also, man, I should also live it up now. And what's the point of life if, I didn't ask for any of this and you have to own it. The sooner that you can arrive to owning your existence, and I think that's a big problem with people who are, want to replicate and have kids. I guess it's a normal thing, a genetically normal thing to do. All animals want to replicate, have children, and protect them. That's just what we do. And why haven't I felt that urge? Ever. Even with my, most attractive girlfriends, I never felt a way to do that. Or the reason to do that. I'm sure that it imbues your life with a sense of meaning. I'm sure. But what I'm saying is that meaning can be found within. And you just have to sculpt that. You have to be the artist, as Nietzsche says, of your own life. What kind of dance style? What's the most fun? So I guess it is really all about experience. Someone else wrote about this. I wish I could find the blog post, but basically this girl was a really talented writer. I really wish I would have remembered what the article was, but it's one of those things on the internet you find and it's like a gem and then it passes and yeah, you can't find it again. But she compared us, and I said this before actually on my channel, life now to an algae bloom, thousands of years, or pull-up, thousands of years ago, or any time. You just exist, you breathe, you have an experience, and then you die. And abrupt climate change puts that into stark reality. You can't not face it. And so then you have to come with the decision of making purpose and meaning out of your life, even though it's going to come all to an end, regardless of climate emergency or not. So just some heavy solo stuff. I know when you're wrapped up with a career or a partner or something to keep you busy, you don't think about this stuff. And could you say I have, too much time on my hand to be thinking about this? No, I think it's important to think about the heavy shit in life. Because it guides you. It can help guide you in a more discernible direction. Otherwise, you get knocked up and have 3 children and get a DUI. You're not thinking. You're not conscious. Are you conscious or not? That's the task in this age of secularism and decline in America. Are you conscious? What respectfully can you do that's the most enjoyable without hurting other people? Make music. Go skydiving. That emits CO2. Everything does. From the moment we wake up till we go to sleep. It all does. So I'm fed up with technocratic people who are stuck in the matrix of their own endless growth philosophy and conditioning from academia that, that Bitcoin is good, even though it takes all this energy to consume. A lot of people, 95% of the population, I can't even fucking relate to. I'm an alien. Most of them, like I said, doomer chicks don't exist. If most of them knew what we know, or the growing minority of people know, will set you free. It'll make you look at things differently. And it'll further encourage the notion that you should do the craziest, most awesome thing that you'd be proud of in your life, because you aren't going to have a tombstone. No one's going to remember you. There's not going to be placards. There's not going to be people celebrating your existence. Even if, you get several degrees. You just... where we're headed in abrupt and irreversible climate change, the only time is now to live in the moment. I know that's cliche, but take care of yourself. Tune out the bullshit, this negativity, meaninglessness. You gotta stay in the right path, somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, it's quasi enjoyable. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. You've been great subscribers, and if you like this, let me know in the comments if I should do some more podcasts, some rambles, my private thoughts, which are not so private anymore. Okay? Thank you. Have a good week. Bye-bye.